And welcome to another wonderful Friday afternoon here at the United States Marshals Museum in Fort Smith, Arkansas, live from the banks of the Arkansas River. I hope everybody is having a wonderful, happy New Year, and I hope you had a great, safe Christmas, and I am really excited to talk to you today for this first installment of our First Friday Lives that we do here at the museum. We used to do this over on Facebook about once every week. Now we're doing it on YouTube once a month. Hopefully we're going to end up getting a little bit better production on these, and we'll be able to talk to you about some more stuff about what's going on here at the museum, especially since we're so excited knowing that we are going into this year, knowing that we will end up the year open to the general public here in Fort Smith. And so we're really busy right now trying to make sure that that's going to happen. And if you are here on the stream, thank you very much for coming on to the stream. Very definitely, if you get the opportunity, if you've got a question while you're sitting there listening, go ahead, throw in your question into the chat bar. We'll try and take care of you and answer what you can. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube later on after today, please, if you have a question about what we're talking about, throw your question, your comment in, and if we can, we'll get back to you at some point in the future when we see that comment. Also, and I know this is very much just kind of one of those things that you have to do on YouTube, please like and share this video. It helps us get around. It helps us to get our message out to talk about the story of the United States Marshals and their history in the United States. As you saw, we just played our short commercial about our brick campaign. We are continuing to do the brick campaign. We have more than 300 bricks currently in the ground outside on our property, and they go right past our brand new statue of the Light Horseman that was bankrolled by the 5 tribes over in Oklahoma. And we are going to be continuing to help tell those stories. The more that you can get your financial support to us, the more that we can make sure that we tell these stories. And so we are getting close. We are getting ready to do our thing. I know I'm starting to sound like an NPR or a PBS fund drive, but we can always use anything you can do to help. So very definitely like and share. Go on, comment to us if you have any questions. Let me know where you're from. More than happy to find that out. Specifically today, the stuff that we were wanting to talk about, over the last couple of years, we've received a couple of very, very important firearms in American history, especially related to Marshals history. And I was going to talk a little bit about those, and then I was going to lead from one of those guns, which some of you might have seen before here, is also to lead into talking about our upcoming program that we're going to be having here in another few months, specifically on the subject of the tragedy at Goingsnake. If you aren't familiar with the tragedy of Goingsnake, take a look at our Marshall Myths episode on the tragedy of Goingsnake. Elsewhere here on YouTube, we'll throw the link down into the doodly-doo down below. And so we'll make sure that you can find out about that. But it's a really important event. This year, 2022, is the 150th anniversary of this event, the biggest, bloodiest gunfight in the history of the American West, deadliest day in the history of the Marshals Service, deadliest day in the history of the Cherokee Nation. And we want to make sure that we can get these stories told. We're going to have a lot of stuff about that with Leslie Higgins, our Director of Education here in a bit. Called you the Curator of Education. But we will be with Leslie here in just a few minutes. But before that, I want to talk to you about these special guns. The first one I want to talk to you about, this is a Winchester 1886, caliber .40-82. The important thing, though, isn't the model or the caliber or what year it was made. The important thing about this is the person who carried it. And most of you, if you are interested in Marshals history, if you are interested especially in the history of the Three Guardsmen, you've seen this rifle before. There's a very famous photograph, or a couple different photographs, of Heck Thomas, one of the members of the Three Guardsmen, very famous deputy U.S. Marshal here out of originally Fort Smith, worked in Indian Territory, worked in Oklahoma Territory, ended up kind of retired as a deputy, went over to work as the city marshal over in Lawton, Oklahoma. And this is the 1886 rifle that Heck Thomas carried during part of his career. And this is in some photographs that you've seen. The reason why we know this is his, it went down through his son to his son to his son. And then we now have this, it's great-great-grandson of Heck Thomas. That family has put this on loan to us for about the next 5 years, if not more, to help us tell this story. And so this right here, it's just an amazing gun. The only differences between what you're going to see here on this gun that I'm holding and what you would have seen in that photograph is a couple generations back. This was still being used by the family as a hunting rifle. 4082 is a great deer cartridge. And this particular gun, though, since it was getting a little bit old, a little bit worn, a little bit brown, they went ahead and they sent it off somewhere to get completely refinished. And I know as gun collectors, a lot of gun collectors are going to be wincing at that point because, well, is it a Winchester refinishing? Unfortunately, it's not. You can tell as you look a little bit closer, if you can get up close, and I know that this camera is not exactly the best for this purpose, you're going to start to see where all of the sharp edges on the barrel flats, sharp edges back here on the rear sight. There's some other spots where you can see, for example, on the barrel address is a little bit worn down, a little bit soft because they got a little bit aggressive when they ground down the original finish. But this is the original wood, original stock, checkered stock. This is a little bit of an upgrade on the original, having that pistol grip stock in the good wood. But one of the unfortunate things is we also don't know what the serial number is, short of at some point we'll get permission to take the stock off and take a look for a serial number on the tang, because at this point this would have been first run, very, very early production, so you would have been engraved into the lower tang. That engraving is gone because of how aggressive they hit that thing when they were refinishing it. But this particular gun, well, even if we knew that, the only thing we'd be able to find out about the Winchester archives up in Cody, Wyoming, is what day it left the factory and what configuration the gun left the factory in. So we get a chance to take a look at this, though, and like I said, this gun gets to help tell the story about Heck Thomas. It gets to tell the story about the Three Guardsmen. It gets to tell stories about the men who wore the badge and what they did in Indian Territory and Oklahoma Territory during the 1890s into the early 1900s in the case of Heck Thomas and the Three Guardsmen. Something that was a little bit earlier, really a generation before. Oh, and by the way, if you've got a question about that gun or this next gun or any of the other stuff that we talk about today, by all means, please feel free to ask. Oh, and just wanted to let you know, we're going to be, we just received a new shipment of mugs into our museum store. And on that museum store, if you go to our museum store, we're going to drop the link into the comments here in a second. If you put in the code NEWMUG, N-E-W space M-U-G, you're going to get 10% off each mug that's ordered. And that's going to be our new logo mug that's going to be showing up here in the comments that Casey will be able to drop in for me. This particular gun is the other gun I was wanting to talk about. This particular gun is a Spencer carbine 56 caliber, and that's not 56 grain, well, 56 caliber, 56 grains of black powder. This is one of those confusing things with some of the hyphenated cartridge names. 56 caliber, 56 caliber. So it's kind of a straight at the front end and at the back end of the cartridge case. So this Spencer carbine, a little bit worse for wear, a little bit worn. This gun is an important gun for us. It's also on loan from a descendant of the owner of the gun. This is the gun that was owned by Zeke Proctor and was used by Zeke Proctor during the shootout which occurred at the tragedy at Goingsnake. For those of you who aren't familiar with Goingsnake, like I said, you can take a look at the Marshall Myths video here on our channel, and we'll throw a link for that down. But Goingsnake is the deadliest day in the history of the Marshals Service, deadliest day in the history of the Cherokee Nation, largest gunfight which ever took place in the American West, at least that the military wasn't involved in. You have a posse of 10 men accompanied by 5 Cherokee going up into Indian Territory to execute a warrant on one Zeke Proctor. Zeke was being tried for the murder of a Cherokee woman. Zeke, being Cherokee, was being tried in a Cherokee court. And so the Marshals posse was on their way to arrest him conditionally for assault on a U.S. citizen. They showed up. One of the members of the Cherokee group that was riding with the posse decided instead he'd rather open fire because he wanted to kill Zeke Proctor. And as a result of that, you end up having the next 5 or 10 minutes just full of bloodshed. You end up with a deputy U.S. Marshal dying. You have 7 other members of the posse being killed outright. You have 3 members of the Cherokee Nation court action killed. Of the members of the Marshals posse who were killed, 4 of them were members of the Cherokee Nation. You have 11 people across the posse and the Cherokee court action being injured, and you end up with about a year and a half where the Cherokee Nation and the U.S. government are virtually at standstill in the way of any sort of back and forth. So it's really kind of an interesting event, especially when you look at the long-term effects of that, especially considering the McGirt decision that the Supreme Court made a couple of years ago. It's really kind of an interesting thing that was going on. But Zeke Proctor, who was there, he was the defendant in that court case, had this gun with him in that courtroom and used it. It's been documented that he was using this gun to shoot at people who were part of that Marshals posse. We don't know if he killed anyone with it or not, and there's no record of him actually doing so. But one of the things that we're going to be doing here at the museum, in order to make sure that we're able to talk about this story in a better light, is I'm going to introduce you, as soon as I can get my screen up. There we go. I want to introduce you to Leslie Higgins. Leslie Higgins is our Director of Education. Leslie, if you can say hello. And let me see if, I think that is, let me try this one. And let me see here. I just want to make sure that I am getting your, there we go. Go ahead and try that again, because I want to make sure that we are getting the speaker, and it looks like we're not. Let me make sure that I have the audio coming in for you. Let me see here. All right, let's see for some, I think I know what's going on. There we go. Yep, you should be good.
Can you hear me now?
Now you should be able to hear him. There we go. All right, so I've got Leslie Higgins. She is our Director of Education, and she works here at the Marshals Museum, runs a lot of our educational programs, runs some of our amazing programs like what we just held an evening in the past with our special guest, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I should say Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Evening in the Past is an annual event we have every December, and we use that to talk to and talk with a very important member of American society, America's past. We've had presidents, we've had activists, and now especially with Dr. King here. But coming up on our next project, I know like with coming off of talking about Zeke Proctor's guns, I want to talk with Leslie a little bit back and forth about our upcoming program that we're going to have a special 2-day symposium on Goingsnake, because this is the 150th anniversary. Leslie, if you can go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about what this event is.
Yeah, so this is going to be, like Dave said, a 2-day symposium where we are going to cover pretty much all aspects of Goingsnake, the Goingsnake tragedy, but also looking at just Cherokee history, different aspects of Cherokee culture, through just a series of speakers and sessions. We will have multiple sessions a day. Both days will be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You'll have breaks in between. We'll have lunches also with some speakers for our lunches. We're planning an evening event. So there's just going to be a lot going on over those 2 days, all kind of focused on the importance of that event, both at the time and then looking at the ramifications of that all the way up until today.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Like people who are watching this, they'll know my excitement about the events that took place there and just helping people to understand that whole thing better. Who are some of the people that we have invited to participate in this?
We've invited a lot of different speakers. We are excited to have Stacy Leeds joining us for this. She is a former member of the Cherokee Supreme Court and a professor at Arizona State University. She'll be joining us as one of our lunch speakers to talk about Supreme Court decisions that have affected the tribes. And a lot of those have been influenced by the Goingsnake event. We also have invited Dave Turk from the Marshals Service. We've invited several other people from the Cherokee Nation. We will have our own Dave Kennedy speaking, as well as several others.
Yep. And I know I'm looking forward to it, getting a chance to talk, obviously, about Guns of the West, but also getting to talk about some of the myth and the legends of Goingsnake, because I know this story of what happened from the first day of the event up through the 20s and into the 30s and then up to today. There's a lot of stuff that people really don't understand, that it's folklore in a lot of cases, but this is like much of the story of the West. One of the things that we get to do as part of our job is we get to do a lot of myth busting on our own right. So.
That's right. And, Goingsnake is one of those things that is, a lot of people are not familiar with just the event itself. They don't, it's not something that's taught about in school, and not something that's really known by a lot of people, even in this area of the country where it happened. So there is a lot of myth, a lot of lore around it. There's lots of different accounts of what happened. And so we're excited to take this deep dive and to really look at it and look at the research that's been done, debunk some of those myths, and because it doesn't need the myths to be a great story, and to really, it just by itself, how important it was to the history of the Marshal Service and the history of the Cherokee Nation and of our own government.
Right. It really, just even today, we can still see some of the after effects of this. But we're not just going to be going into, I know what some of us are really interested in, being the academic history of this, being the legal aspects of this. I know some people are willing to look at like a couple of some of us kind of think of sometimes maybe the softer issues. We're also going to be looking at genealogy, language. What aspects of that can we talk about?
Yeah, like you said, we're going to have a session on Cherokee genealogy. We're going to have a session on the Cherokee language, which the Cherokee Nation is working very hard to really bring back. We're going to just look at some more general Cherokee history and of the time period, military history of the time period. So we are going to take that deep dive into Goingsnake, but we're also going to look at just some more general, I guess you could use the word entertaining aspects also.
Yeah, because I think that was one of the things that we were doing when we were planning some of the programming for this. Is Friday is going to be a little bit more of a serious day. Saturday is going to be a little bit lighter day. I wouldn't not necessarily fluffy discussion, but it's going to be discussion that will be a little bit more easily digestible if you are not a dyed-in-the-wool Western historian or trying to split legal hairs. Just because I know that just having dug through it as much as we have, knowing that we are going to have about 100 or 150 square feet of our museum experience dedicated to Goingsnake to help people better understand this event, we are really looking forward to having a wider understanding, not just because I'm sure there's going to be stuff that we'll be able to teach other people, but I am sure that we're going to be learning some more stuff about it ourselves from these different points of view and from the other people who are going to be showing up as part of that discussion.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of along those same lines, it is a 2-day event. We're going to be selling a 2-day ticket for this, but we will also be selling a 1-day ticket. So if you're only able to join us for 1 day of the symposium, that's just great as well. And you can pick which day kind of interests you more. And we'll have the full schedule out of the speakers and the sessions as we get closer to April.
Yeah, and I know that I'm looking forward to being part of a couple of different panels on there. I know that the folks who are being involved, I am so excited, whether some of the people from Cherokee Nation, some of the people from the National Park Service, we've got We're talking to old friends of mine over at the Oklahoma Historical Society. We are talking to people at the Marshals Service, and there's a couple areas we don't have any guarantees on, but just these conversations that we're going to have, these roundtable discussions, these presentations on just what life was like for Cherokee, what life was like for Marshals, what life was like in this part of the world. It really, 1872 is a special time in this area. This is a time of turbulence, a time of, there were a lot of uncomfortable things going on during the period following the Civil War, leading up to 1875, when Judge Parker took his oath to come in as the new court judge here. It was a real mess. And I think we're going to be seeing kind of picking apart some of the dirty underbelly of what was going on at the time. But
yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, and just looking at, it's such a time of uncertainty, really, as far as, and what we're going to look at with Goingsnake is questions of sovereignty, questions of jurisdiction, questions of treaties that were made. And a lot of that just kind of comes to a head with this event and the time around it. And this is all what a lot of people don't realize is all, like you said, before Judge Parker even comes in, and we really get this time of the time period that people really know more about.
Right. And so we're really looking forward to this. And if anybody is watching the stream right now, I know we've got a few viewers on the stream right now. If you have any questions about what we are planning on this, if you want to have any questions about the firearms that we had in there, if you've got general questions about the museum, we're more than happy to answer what we can. We know that we've had a real exciting couple of months here at the museum as we've pretty much reached our financial goal towards building out our museum experience. We know that we are moving forwards on that, and hopefully in a few months we're going to be starting to get closer to announcing a time frame towards when we'll a little bit tighter time frame than just saying winter 2022 that we're going to be looking to open to the general public. But we've got a lot of stuff going on. I know Leslie and I have just been up to our ears in talks with our production team, making sure that this is going to happen. We are, just going out and getting a chance to do things like taking the trip out to South Carolina to pick up that Winchester 1886 that belonged to Heck Thomas. It's not often that I kind of get the shivers picking up a gun, and that was one of those cases. I think we're really looking forward to a lot of this as we start to move forwards and making sure that we get more people understanding events like Goingsnake, especially given this 150th anniversary this year. We are so very excited to tell these stories as we move into the future. But I've not seen any questions in the comments. If you happen to be watching this video later down the road, we know that YouTube has a lot of wheels, and the legs run for a long time on YouTube. So we're going to get a chance to see this in the future. If you have any questions or comments talking to Dave of the past and Leslie of the past, just go ahead and holler at them down in the comments, and we will get back to you as soon as we can with our answers. Otherwise, very definitely keep an eye, not just here on this channel, but take a look at the links in the sidebar there to follow us on Facebook, follow and like and share our stuff here on YouTube. We just want to help get these stories about the Marshals out. We want to get the stories about American history out. And we want to make sure that we fulfill our mission of helping other people learn about the history of the United States Marshals Service. So if there's nothing else from anybody, Leslie, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy afternoon. I know you've got stuff to do. I know I've got stuff to do. I know the people watching is likely have stuff to do. So if anybody has anything else, Leslie, thanks again. To anybody who has watched the stream today, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys have a great, wonderful, and safe weekend. Stay safe. Get boosted if you haven't already. Please, if you're someplace around other people, stay distant or wear a mask. Everything is starting to kick back up again. we don't think we're in any danger of anything going wrong with the schedule for this presentation. It's 3 months from now, but very definitely take care of yourself so we don't have to worry about trying to cancel this or put it online. We'd much rather have everybody else in the house here at the United States Marshals Museum in Fort Smith on the banks of the Arkansas River. So thank you very much. You guys have a wonderful day. And like I said, have a great weekend. Stay safe.